Welcome to Fit to Parent. Welcome to Fit to Parent. My name is Monye Christian. Today we'll be looking at the self-sabotaging factors in parenting. The primary factors that sabotages our efforts and frustrate our goodwill and intention in parenting and family life are stress and trauma. As simple as it may sound, they are the hidden triggers behind our sarcastic behavior at home, our yelling, nagging, cursing, resentment, quarreling, and bullying. You see, if we can understand this concept, we will become better parents and spouse. Let's quickly take this survey. Have you ever overreacted and later regretted your action? Perhaps you have vowed not to get angry with your spouse or children again, but you still lost your temper on them. Maybe you have decided not to use physical discipline in correcting your children, but ended up beating, hitting, and slapping them because of minor mistakes. Have you beaten your children or quarreled with your spouse even when they did nothing wrong? This is what I am saying. Have you returned home before and feeling agitated, irritated, and resentful? Do you find yourself in an uncontrollable mood, using derogatory languages and cannot stop even when you try? Does it look like beating your children or quarreling with your spouse gives you a sense of relief? If yes, you are suffering from an adverse effect of stress and trauma. Don't walk away. This video was specially recorded because of you. An unmanaged stress and trauma can sabotage your good intention even when you want to act right. This has caused more harm than good. Note, when parents yell and bully children, believe me, they didn't intend to. But the adverse effects of stress and trauma made them do it. Let me just be honest with you. Knowing this has saved me a lot in my parenting and family life. Stress and trauma make you react instead of responding. What does it mean when a patient in the hospital is reacting to drugs? And what does it mean when a patient in the hospital is responding to drugs? This explains the huge difference between reacting and responding to a situation. In parenting, we are meant to respond, but stress and trauma make us to react, which is often counterproductive. Let me do a little explanation on stress and trauma before we go to how it affects our brain and behavior and sabotages our effort in parenting and even family life. But let's start with stress. One fundamental thing you have to know about stress, whether physical or mental, is that it triggers the production of stress hormone like cortisol. You know, when parents and couples return home at night from business and work, they are chronically stressed, meaning that there are too many secretion of stress hormone like cortisol in their body system. And one of the things cortisol does is to shut down the fourth brain, the thinking or the reasoning part of the brain, which we will see soon. But please, let's see this. Under normal circumstances, these stress hormones are released to prepare the body to face an immediate danger in the case of physical threats. But on the contrary, most of our stress is not as a result of physical threats. Yet the body still responds with the release of stress hormone even when there is no immediate danger. Now, let me show you the psychological condition that can induce chronic stress and cause the body to release stress hormone even when there is no physical threat or physical activities. One is fear, guilt, resentment, sadness, worries, unhappiness, the feeling of helplessness, unforgiveness, depression, anxiety, frustration, lateness, either lateness to church or your children are about to get late to school, anything lateness, trying to meet up with house chores, family pressure and quarrel, and demonic obsession. Now, these release stress hormones are supposed to be used up in absorbing shock and facing physical threats. In a situation where no physical threat or shock to use up these hormones produced, they begin to wreak havoc in the body system. Firstly, they shut down the immune system. Secondly, they shut down the cell regeneration process. And thirdly, they shut down the fourth brain, responsible for thinking, learning, and move our brain to auto-protection and survival mode. Let me share with you the rule of the thumb. There are two moods, or there are two forms of mood that you can be at any point in time. Either you are happy or you are unhappy. Any mood you are has a price tag attached to it and must generate something. When you are happy, endorphin is released into the bloodstream to the various parts of the body, where it helps to keep pain and assist in body renewal system. But when you are under any of these psychological situations like sadness, worry, fear, unhappiness, or you are frustrated, stress hormones are produced and released into the bloodstream. Let's look at trauma, the second self-sabotaging factor in parenting and family life. One fundamental thing you have to know about trauma is that it is a psychological wound that bleeds each time we remember it. It activates old wounds from our childhood or our past. Whether it is a broken marriage, divorce, past mistake, abuse, loss of a loved one, or something when we remember it, we wished it never happened, or something we are unable to forgive ourselves from or forget. They are things, when we remember them, they make us angry with ourselves. And without realizing it, we want to pass on the pain or the hurt to another person. Oftentimes, our family members are victims of these traumatic experiences, especially our children and spouse. Imagine them being a victim of what happened to you 11 years ago, or being a victim of what happened to you at the place of work or business. This is why misbehavior is usually termed the language of trauma. Unfortunately, many parents do not know that this internal struggle, self-hate, and resentment are trauma-based. This is why we recommend counseling and therapeutic sections with professionals. For stress, you can rest and get back to normalcy. But for trauma, you need a healing process to get back to normalcy. Our past, negative or positive, forms our self-image. Perhaps you had a negative past. The chances that that traumatic experience will hurt your present or sabotage your parenting or family life are high. Like I said, for stress, you can rest and get back to normalcy. But for trauma, you need a healing process to get back to normalcy. Have you not wondered why some doctors, after examining their patients, they will put them to bed rest for 3 days, for 1 week to get back to normalcy? Stress controls our behavior from outside, while trauma controls us from the inner. Trauma traps us. What do I mean? You can be 36 years old in actual age, but you are trapped at 7 years. You can be trapped and tied at 7 years when a tragic event or trauma happened. This makes people to live in perpetual pain and fear of that experience. That pain and fear make the body to produce stress hormone and get them agitated when they remember it. Let's see the impact of stress and trauma on our brain and behavior. This is especially for choleric parents and other extroverted individuals. This is part of the reason choleric parents are bullies and can be sarcastic. Their temperament put them under chronic mental stress and made them secrete a lot of stress hormone even when they are doing nothing. This makes them and their children vulnerable. When you cannot reason, you can't make a good decision. And obviously, you keep making repeated mistakes. As a parent, it is important to know how stress and trauma affects your brain and behavior. This will help you avoid potential crises in parenting. Let's take a look at this diagram. Now look at the 3 types of the brain on the screen. The first is the fourth brain, which is the thinking part of the brain. The second is the midbrain, the feeling part of the brain, while the third is survival part of the brain. Our brains are wired for connection. But when stress, trauma, and meltdown come, it rewires them for protection, meaning it moves them to the third brain, the hindbrain, which is the survival part of the brain. This is why good behavior is difficult for a traumatized or a hurt person. The brain enters what is called auto-protection or survival mode when the fight and the flight instinct is activated by stress or trauma. This shuts down the thinking part of the brain, which is the fourth brain. It also shuts down the feeling part of the brain, which is the midbrain, to simply respond to a threat, perceived or real. Unfortunately, the brain perceives traumatic events, tragic events, stress, meltdown as threats and switches to a defense mode, which is the hindbrain. At any point, the hindbrain is in control. Parents are expected to calm down until the fourth brain, the safe mood, the logic or the reasoning part is back in control to avoid physical and verbal aggression on their child or spouse. This is the part of the reason parents can be sarcastic, especially when they return from work or business. It has been found that about 90% of parents who return home after work or business returned with the thinking brain, or the brain responsible for thinking, which is the fourth brain, shuts down. Note, when the thinking part of the brain that is responsible or meant to help you hesitate and reason is shut down, a parent can be unreasonable and can act in an abnormal way. This is why children are victims of their bullies at such times. When you discipline a child, when the brain is at auto protection or survival mode, many a times you are not right. This is what parents must learn and apply. Next time, when you come back home from work or business, before you enter your house, take a deep breath and decide to act right. If not, the adverse effects of stress and trauma you have accumulated during the day will sabotage your goodwill and intention for your children. Remember, these children are the ones you have been thinking about, the ones you have been missing all the while you are at work and in business. Don't allow the effect of stress and trauma sabotage that love. They say action speak louder than words. Your shouting, beating, anger, and punishment you exhibit when you come back because of stress does not prove that love. If we learn to master this, we will become better parents and spouse. This is where we will bring this episode of Fit to Parent to a close. Say thank you for watching and see you in the next episode.